Okay, I think I'll be right. I like mostly right. I can probably plug in the thingy again. It's in. I think we're good. Anyways, this Facebook Live has been good for the most part. It's worked pretty good. Occasional glitches. We're back on. All right. So how did Suvarna become Manu? In ancient times, there lived a king named Surata, born of the Chaitra dynasty. He protected his subjects like they were his own children. At that time, kings renowned as the destroyers of the Kolas became his enemies. This wielder of powerful weapons fought these destroyers of the Kolas and was defeated by them, although their forces were smaller than his. He then returned to his own city, relinquishing his sovereignty over the earth, and continued to rule over his own land. There too the king was attacked by these powerful enemies. Even in his own city, the king, now bereft of strength, was robbed of his army and treasury by his own powerful and wicked ministers. Deprived of his sovereignty, the king fled alone into the dense forest on horseback on the pretext of hunting. This is the opening scene. So we have to think of who this character is. The first character presented is Surata. And the thing about the Chandi, sometimes, we can assign symbolic correspondences to different characters. We say, the Putna in the Krishna Lila, that represents a false guru. There's all these there and the different and there's a reasons for it. Ancient yogis have made the statement, but it's not obviously how Putna is false guru, right? She is the false guru, but it's not obvious, right? In the Chandi, there may be a false guru named whose name translates as false guru. Sometimes the meaning is obvious. It's not always. We're not stretching that far. So similarly with the main characters of Surata, Medas, and Samadhi, their names have very clear meanings. That we don't have to. It's not a huge stretch. We don't have to defend ourselves for our weird interpretation, assigning of meaning, right? So Surata means good, Rata means cart, like Rata Yatra, the cart festival, same type of thing, Rat, right? So Surata, good cart. So good, and he's a king. And so Surata has been interpreted to be meaning how you act in this world, right? And so Surata, good action. Another way of saying good action in the ancient world is to say dharma. Dharma is righteous activity, righteous behavior, according to Varna and Ashram and nobility and religion like that. So dharma can be interpreted as the external goal of religion. It's religion, but it's one of the goals, the functions and goals of religion is to do your duty properly, to live your dharma, your own dharma, your caste dharma, your varna dharma, everything, to live properly, right, righteously, in a way that you benefit others and you yourself benefit. So Surata, and he's a king, and so. Like I said, there's a lot in this. If you analyze this opening sentences about that he protected the subject like were his own children. There's a way of interpreting. I'm not going to do that right now, but just giving you a hint. There's a way of interpreting that sentence. Every word in that sentence to refer to life in the human body. So Surata is not just the dharma of a king living his dharma. It's everyone living their dharma, whatever their dharma is. We all are Suratas, right? But what happens? He gets attacked, right? He gets attacked by an inferior force, and the inferior army wins. That's the situation, right? And so then he withdraws to his own kingdom. He just runs his own kingdom, right? He lost. He was an emperor at one time. He lost control of the other enemies, weak enemies, smaller armies, right? But they win. And then even at home, he loses he loses his control of his kingdom, of his castle, of his family, so it's so if Surata doesn't just mean an ancient king, it means everyone, it means us, right? What's the situation he finds himself in? He loses his own sovereignty. And this is one of the themes of all the stories of Mahishasura and Mardani and all those stories that are there of Indra losing his sovereignty, the gods losing their sovereignty. When you start to give, let me tell you a far out philosophical, theological, mystical, religious story about the gods losing their authority. But the real thing is we lose our authority. We lose our sovereignty, right? To smaller armies. This is important, right? Their forces are smaller, right? It's embarrassing. And you can see usually, I don't know, I'm not going to project my own experiences on you, but usually the things I lose my sovereignty to are not like big. I mean, there could be governments that force their will on us. We can be attacked by enemies. We can be broken into and tied up by. I mean, that can happen, and that happens, right? It's horrible if it happens, right? Right. But usually, it's I don't know, just like it's like anger and pride and a misunderstanding and some small thing that completely rips everything apart. You lose your position, right? Small things I'm talking very general because if you speak specifically, it becomes embarrassing, and he's embarrassed. He's embarrassed by the fact that he was a universal monarch, right? And a small, insignificant army wins, right? Very, very interesting, right? And the verse points out, although weaker and smaller, the army wins him. So he goes under the pretext of hunting. I'm going to the forest, right? He lost his power in his home. He's embarrassed. I'm going to go clear my head. Right, you can do like that. It's like sometimes in the middle when I lose my sovereignty in my little mini kingdom of my day, it's like I got to go for a walk or like go to my room or something, just kind of like clear, trying to figure things out, right? So he saw the hermitage of the greatest of the twice-born, the sage Medas, where ferocious animals were living together in peace with the sage and his many disciples. So now we have a second character, Medas. So we don't have to guess what Medas has a direct meaning. Surata, we gave a little bit of a jump, although the meaning is clear. Medas means intelligence, means subtle spiritual intelligence, subtle thinking, subtle intelligence. Medas is the subtlest form of knowledge of Saraswati. Saraswati at her most refined is Medas, right? The ability to understand scriptures, the ability to understand, you can be smart, be educated, right, and intellectual and go to school and get degrees, but not understand a single verse of the Gita. It requires a different type of intelligence to understand the scriptures. That intelligence is Medas, not logic and training, And so we always mention every year that the Gayatri mantra is a prayer for Medas, right? Prachodayat, right? When you illuminate my mind, make my mind, bring that to bring light to the mind so I can understand properly. Right, that prayer for light is the object, the given object as per the Shastras of the Gayatri Mantra, for instance. You're praying for illumination. So Medas is that higher spiritual intuitive knowledge. Now, an ancient story of a king, lost his kingdom, went to the forest, met a sage. That king, if that king is us, we lose our kingdom to some stupid little thing. We go into solitude, try to figure it out, right? Who is Medas? Medas is our own subtle spiritual, and it's the guru. Externally, it's a guru. The guru can be Medas, right? But actually, the gurus are more like, stop it, whack, not like subtle intelligence. The guru may set things up for that we have to discover. We can't be told to us. Some things have to be discovered through our own refined intelligence, through the result of sadhana, right? So Medas is that still small voice, or however you want to think, the voice of intuition. We have. On big stuff, I've told this story, but at one time at our ashram, one kid, some candy came and he ate the sweets and didn't share it with the gurubhais, right? And the other came and complained, started a big fight and started hitting each other. And it didn't take long before they're throwing bricks at each other, small kids, and then they all come from Guruji, and expecting he's definitely going to beat them. Who knows what's going to happen? Like then he asked them, "What'd you do?" And the sweets came and he ate them all. He didn't share. So he said, okay, now close your eyes and think. If sweets were to come into the ashram, should you eat them by yourself, or do you think you should share them with your brother disciples? Right? It's very interesting. I was watching. 10 years ago, he would have just slapped him. Stop that. But the guru also evolves his technique over the years. The disciples evolve, and the guru dissolve. I've never been physically slapped, but I got a good slaps also. They were to my benefit also. Now it's more subtle. Asking, you think you did right on that one? No. But yeah, I remember watching this little boy do this, sitting there like this. And he goes, no, I think I should have shared it. I mean, it's like, of course he was only one answer to give that. But that really, if you ask, you don't have to be told what's good. If you ask yourself, the big stuff is, but even the subtle stuff, if you ask yourself, right? It may take a little while. It may take years of asking. Right, but the answer, we have the answer. Right? We don't mention this term put on Ved before. The ancient knowledge is already within us. That's Medus, right? So he finds himself in the forest of Medus, the ashram of Medus, the greatest of the twice born. This is a Dvija. So it's interesting. So just like we have Medus, who's a rishi, a Brahmin, and we have Surata, who's a Kshatriya. Right, so we're also everything. Like I said, it's everything so packed. Everything is everything in the Chandi. Right, we have a new character coming who's a Vaishya, who's a business merchant. Right, he saw there the hermitage, the greater of the twice born, the sage Medus, where ferocious animals were living together in peace with the sage and his many disciples. This is an interesting line. We have a verse like this in the Bible where the lion lays down with the lamb, right? This is the result. This is mentioned in the Yoga Sutta. Every yama and niyama has a siddhi, right? A benefit when it's practiced perfectly. And it says when ahimsa is practiced perfectly, that it says that ferocious animals who are enemies of each other will not be enemies. In other words, violence can't be done in the presence of a non-violent person. Normally we think a non-violent person doesn't commit violence. But the siddhi of a non-violent person is somebody to which there can be no violence in their presence, right? And there's examples of great, the very presence of a non-violent person can bring, there's a little bit dramatic in stories, like in the story of Gandhi, there's riots, and he shows up, sits in the middle of the riots, and slowly, of course, there's all kinds of political reasons how he was able to accomplish it, but he was able to stop, his presence was able to stop riots. Now, this is one way of seeing like that. In his presence, even wild animals are living together. So this is one of the qualities of Medus also, that you should not only external sage should be nonviolent and in his presence nonviolent, but the part of us that has no duality, to which there is no the Medus within us that's one of the qualities, right? There's respectfully welcomed by the sage, King Surata spent time wandering about the great sage's hermitage. Overcome with attachment, he began to think, the city which my ancestors guarded I have now left. Are the wicked servants righteously guarding my city in my absence? So are my wicked servants, the ones who cheated on me and went to that other king, are they guarding things properly? Are they behaving properly? What a strange thing to ask when you've been kicked out of your kingdom and been, What enjoyment will my royal elephant, heroic and always happy, receive at the hands of my enemies? Now he's worried about his elephant. How is he being treated? Are my enemies treating him? He being fed nicely? I gave him very nice things, right? My constant followers who receive favor and wealth from me are now serving other kings. The treasure which I gathered with great care are being wasted on those who are addicted to improper spending. He's worried about his bank balance. That's no longer his. As the king sunk deeper into contemplating the loss of wealth and as the present situation, his mind became absorbed in the pain caused by attachment. That's the Chintamasa Parititavaha. That the pain, the cause of his pain was his attachment. He no longer had the kingdom. Really, he's still suffering. Of course, you can suffer. I lost my kingdom, but it's different. He's realizing this to be the case. Near the hermitage, the sage saw a merchant. After greeting him, he asked, "Who are you? Why have you come here? Why do you appear to be in great sorrow?" Hearing the question of the king, spoken in the spirit of friendship, the merchant replied to the king. We'll only get, I think, only to the frame story. We'll never get to the main story. Maybe that will be next Saturday's talk. The merchant said, Samadhir Nama Vaisho. My name is Samadhi. So we don't have to, once again, Swami's giving some weird interpretation about his name. No, Samadhi means Samadhi. Samadhi means a unitive, mystic, religious, yogic state of unitive experience, peak unitive experience with the divine, with the self, the soul, or God, according to the school of thought, right? My name is Samadhi. I am a merchant born in a wealthy family, right? My sons and wife, because of their greed for wealth, have cast me out. I've been kicked out by my family. My sons and my wife have kicked me out. They're like, what I mean, the most dear, right? The thing that the thing that we count on, we expect the, Sri Ramakrishna is described like living in a household is like fighting a battle within a fort, right? At least their family are the one that are on your side. The family itself rejected him and cheated him and kicked him out, right? My wife and sons have stolen my riches and deprived me of my wealth. Cast out of my own family, I have come to this forest grief-stricken. I do not know if my children are happy or unhappy. I am unaware of the actions of my sons, family, or wife. Are they presently happy or unhappy? Are my sons living good or evil lives? So he's also thinking, they've kicked me out. They've betrayed me in the most painful possible way. But I'm thinking, are they living good lives? Are they living moral lives? It's a very strange thing. Are they growing up to be good men? It's a weird thing to say to somebody who's not a good man. The son who kicked him out, right? So he's attached again, just like the king. He's attached to the very things that cause his suffering. This is the problem that's being set up. Raju Avacha, the king said, "You have been cast out by your wife and sons. Why is your mind so attached to them?" That's a good question. Right, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Mahabharata scene set up to the Bhagavad Gita, what led to the battle? Arjuna, when he sees his family, he thinks, "Oh, I can't. These people are dear to me." He's attached to them, right? And you think, "Oh, it's better to die than to fight such. It's for them that I want to enjoy my life. The kingdom I want is for them." We forget that a few chapters beforehand, we have to understand their life. What happened? They stole the kingdom. They since childhood they've been sabotaging them and competing against them. They stole the kingdom through by cheating and gambling. They tried to publicly disrobe and rape their wife, right? They exiled them, right? They by that time 3 or 4 times tried to kill them, burn down their house. I mean, murder thing after murder thing, exiled in all these lives. Right, and then Krishna tried to bring them together to bring some sort of peace, right? Like, "Oh, you take this," but is it, we won't. Arjuna and Yudhishthira are saying, "We won't challenge your kingdom. Just give us our own little section. We'll raise our family. We will not give you," he says, "not even the amount of land on one pinhead worth of land." Right? Those people, you're thinking, "Oh, but it's for them that I want to enjoy." Right. The other thing is that this is a similar type of setup, I think, as the Gita, attached to the very things that are only called. They're not worthy of being attached to. Right. This is the question. The merchant said, "As you were speaking, I am too thinking the same thing. But what can I do? My mind does not become hard towards them, but rather still hold a deep affection for those who have driven me out in their greed for wealth, abandoning the love of father, master, and family. Although I understand all this, O noble-hearted king, how is it that my mind still loves even these characterless relations? It is because of their actions that I am sighing in despair and depression. But what can I do when my mind does not become hard to even those who have no love for me?" That's now, of course, this is told in a dramatic story, but back to who Samadhi, or if we're Samadhi and we're Medas, Surata, we can think the very things that are causing our suffering. How can we do? Our mind still goes to the very things that cause the suffering. The mind still goes to, is still attached to. One thing I forgot to mention: if Surata means dharma and Samadhi is union, right? These would be, we could say, the 2 goals of religion: the external goal, and the internal goal. Right, so 2 ways of thinking of religion. People want to live a divine life manifested in this world, satisfying, dharma, artha, kama, and some want moksha. There's 2 different, not only 2 goals, internal and external orientations towards religion, but also two different goals of religion, right? Some people, there's not just one goal of religion, there's many goals of religion. They can broadly classify it as dharma and samadhi, right? Or jnanakand, karmakand, something like that. You could also think of it this way. Then, O Brahmana, the merchant Samadhi, along with the noble king, approached the sage Medas, and after showing him respect due to him, sat down and engaged him in conversation. The king said, "Being united with Supreme Lord, I wish to ask you one question. Be pleased to reply. My mind," so this is the question we all go to our gurus and say this, and we all go to our own deepest mind. This is the very same thing. O Bhajanananda, my mind is uncontrolled and afflicted with sorrow. Although I have lost my kingdom, I am still attached to the paraphernalia of a kingdom. Although I understand this, I still feel pain like one who is ignorant. O great sage, why is this? And this merchant has been cast out by his children, wife, and servants, forsaken by his own people, but he still feels the greatest affection for them. Thus both of us are feeling great pain. Knowing full well the defects of our objects of our attachment, still our minds are drawn into affection. What is it, O great soul, that causes this ignorance, even when we have this understanding? This is the big question that these three stories are going to unfold. Both he and I are fools without the capacity for discrimination. Vivekandasya mundata. The sage said. So he gives he doesn't. I'm going to read quickly. He gives a example of what's going on in the world, and then he gives the punchline, the reason. I'm just going to read each one of these. We can unfold. We're out of time already. All that lives has knowledge from the perception of sense objects. Sense objects are perceived differently by different beings. Some beings can see during the day, and others see during the night. Others see well both day and night. Human beings have the capacity for knowledge, but they are not the only ones. This knowledge is common to all animals as well, such as cattle, birds, and other creatures. The knowledge of humans have, birds and beasts also have. In this respect, the two are alike. Take birds, for example. Although they have knowledge, they are busy putting food into the mouth of their children. Human beings are attached to their children out of expectation for reciprocal help and their need. Can you not see their selfish desire? Even so, humans are hurled into the whirlpool of attachment and the pit of delusion. This is where the verse comes. So it's a weird. What he's saying, like it's not just you. Even birds are like this, right? It's like all animals. I mean, we get knowledge with the senses. With that knowledge, we try to make. We serve our family, but we expect something from our family. You can see our parents serve our children selflessly, but there's not without expectation. There's some expectation. Children take care of their parents with some expectation. Even the most selfless things, it's just like it is true. Not just humans, everybody. So it's a complicated description, but just describing life as it is. Like humans are no different than any. This is the way nature is. Then it says, Mahamaya Harischaisya Taya Samhoyate Jagat. Even so, humans are hurled into the whirlpool of attachment and the pit through the delusion through the power of Mahamaya. So here Mahamaya is mentioned. It's only mentioned one time, the whole Chandi. This is where it's mentioned, right? So, but this whole thing is due to the power of Mahamaya. That means the Chandi, although it's describing how Suvarna became Manu, it's really describing how we are deluded, right? What's the cause of our delusion? And the answer is Mahamaya. Therefore, the next 600 something verses, 600, where it's verse 56, 644 verses, is describing Mahamaya, right? That's also, and this is called Devi Mahatmya. So Mahamaya is going to be Devi, right? Even so, humans are hurled into the whirlpool of attachment, the pit of delusion, through the power of Mahamaya, who is the cause of this world. Marvel not at this. She even put into yoga nidra, sleep of divine union, the Lord of the universe, Jagannath. This is the name for Vishnu. This is where Vishnu is sleeping on the causal ocean. Word is Jagannath. He put Jagannath itself, the Lord of everything, and even he's asleep. Not just you, not just birds, not just me. Even Vishnu is asleep, right? She, Mahamaya, here called Yoga Nidra, right, has put everything to sleep. Right. She is the goddess Bhagavati. For she, the goddess Bhagavati, forcibly draws the minds of even the wise and throws them into delusion. She creates this entire universe made of both moving and unmoving beings. And it is she who, when pleased, gives the boon of final liberation. She is the giver of wisdom, liberation, and eternal existence. She is the cause of our bondage to the world of birth and death, and the controller of all there is. This is a very good definition, right? She throws everything into delusion, and when pleased, she gives liberation. She is knowledge and ignorance. She's bondage and liberation. So then it becomes how to please her, right? And it's not just, we have to make a sacrifice or bring, apples, to please her. We should bring apples and make sacrifices and bring flowers to her, right? But actually, throughout the Chandi and all the stories, we're not going to get to any of the stories. I have to give you the cliff notes. They forget her, and they become an illusion. They remember her, and their suffering ends, right? So that how to please her is to notice her, right? That she is the doer. She's doing everything, good, bad, everything, right? And we suffer only when we forget her, and by remembering her, we become free. So Sri Ramakrishna has this. He used the same term. He uses this in his teachings. You see, Vidyamaya and Avidyamaya. Right, Vijamaya is Maya as the one who gives freedom, knowledge, and wisdom, and Avidyamaya is the power of ignorance. And so he'd pray to Vijamaya, Ma, don't delude me by thy Avidyamaya, by world, and M, the way he rephrases it in his own conversations. Thakur was always praying, Ma, don't let me forget you. That was his definition. That's his way of saying, by remembering her. Like, for instance, one of the let's see. There's a few more verses. Then we'll give the philosophical punch, and then we'll tell the next story next week. We're going a little bit. This is part of our puja. So, she's the controller. She's liberation to cause. She is the cause of our bondage to the world of birth and death, and the controller of over all that is. The king asks, "Blessed Lord, who is this goddess Mahamaya, of whom you speak? What is her origin story, as they always say? How did she come to being, and what are her actions? O twice born, what is her nature? What is her form? Where did she come from? What is her nature? What is her form? Where did she come from?" This is very interesting questions. All this I wish to hear from you, who are the supreme among the knowers of Brahman. The Rishu of Acha. I'm just going to read this one verse, and then we'll end mostly there. Niyayeva sa jagan murtis taya sarvam idam tata. Niyayeva, she is eternal. So who is she? She is. So you say she's eternal. It means she means she doesn't die, or she's That's not good here. It means eternal here means she's the unchanging, beyond time. She's the supreme unchanging reality, right? The unchanging reality, right? Jagan murti. The jagat. The jagat of Jagannath, right? The world is her form. That's interesting. She's the unchanging world. She's the unchanging, and Jagat means changing. The world. The name for the world, Jagat means Jagat means that which moves. So this whole vibrating world is her form. She's the unchanging and the changing. That's a way of saying that. That's her. This is the big revelation, right? Taya sarvam idam tataha. She pervades everything. All this. This is like if you were to give the philosophy of the Chandi, this is the philosophy of the Chandi. She is the eternal. This the moving manifested world is her form, and she pervades everything. That's her answer. That's actually, you think about it, this is the essence. You see, this is not just a regular text in one verse, and not even half. This is literally a fourth of a verse. It's a fourth of and then she manifests, and she tells stories of what does she do, and then she tells the stories of the three, how she kills certain demons and like that. She'll illustrate how this works. She'll tell the mythic tales, the cycle of stories. So this is interesting. This is she's Maya, of course. Okay, you can say, well, what causes it? We could say, if you can go to almost anybody of any school of thought, right, including non-Hindu schools of thought, says, what's the cause of our suffering? Or some version of you're in Maya. It's Maya, right? Maya could be sin, could be illusion. You're in ignorance, or there's all kinds of descriptions of what Maya. Maya doesn't have a single definition, right? Here, Maya is being what is Maya? I'll tell you what Maya is: the eternal Brahman, right? The manifested world, and pervades everything, right? So this is not. There's some views that Maya simply doesn't exist, we're misreading of reality. No. This reality does exist, but it's her, right? What about the Supreme? That does exist. It is a Supreme reality, but it's her, right? Where is she? And so then this whole story of the sleeping. I mean, the stories that are told are going to be illustrating there's official Vad term for this. Like you have Mayavad, it's the in Tantra, Parinamavad. There's your official philosophical term of Tantra. Parinama, I think that's right. I think it's Parinamavad, which means that everything that the Supreme exists as everything. That the cause, the effect is the cause, right? This is how the one has emanated everything, become everything. That's the teaching of Tantra, in a certain sense, the teaching of Shaktism, and different teachings of the Chandi. The rest of the stories will be now describing how this happens, and next I think the next time we'll get a chance to speak is next Saturday, and so we'll pick up from here, and because here quickly it starts telling the story of Madhu and Kaitaba. My notes, I only have a few notes, and they're only about Madhu and Kaitaba's name, so I didn't even get to my little notes here. Anyway, thank you for your patience and your kind attention. And this is the recitation, explanation, hearing. The Chandi is itself puja. The scripture says like that this is we are offering our worship to Divine Mother through our words, and you're also worship Divine Mother through attention. Right, and understanding. This is remembering her removes our suffering. Forgetting her is the cause of our suffering. So at least on these days, we make a sincere effort, redoubled effort, to remember her, and prayers that we never forget her, even after these 9 days are done. Hari Om Tat Sat. Jai Guru. Knew that I'd ask for questions, but we're late, so I have to. Actually, we're not super late. Are there any questions? We're 3 minutes late. It's not so bad. I give you 3 minutes. You get 2 minutes of questions. Any questions, comments? Okay, good then. Hari Om Tat Sat.